Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you manage a mobile fleet, oversee IT security, or really just want to wrap your head around the shifting landscape of enterprise app protection, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're unpacking a massive, urgent shift in how Microsoft handles mobile application management, or MAM. And let me be clear right up front, this isn't just a minor routine patch. It's a fundamental change to Intune's enforcement architecture, and it goes into full effect in early 2026. We're breaking this down today because honestly, understanding this right now is the difference between a totally smooth transition and a massive system-wide operational headache. Okay, let's dive right into this. Picture this scenario. It's a Monday morning. Your employees are grabbing their personal phones, tapping the Outlook or Teams app just to check their messages before their commute, and suddenly, boom, they're locked out. No authentication, no access to company data, nothing. And almost instantly, your help desk is just absolutely flooded with tickets. What actually happened? Well, Microsoft's new security baselines kicked in, and your apps didn't meet the minimum trust requirements. The immediate stakes here are incredibly high, and it's something we need to get ahead of. So, to prevent that exact nightmare scenario, here is our roadmap for today. 1. The January 2026 enforcement. 2. The security logic. 3. iOS and Android requirements. 4. Real-world operational risks. 5. The IT action plan. And finally, 6. Future mobile app governance. All right, Section 1, the January 2026 enforcement, the hard deadline for mobile app access. This is not a gentle nudge from Microsoft. It's a very strict operational deadline. As you can see on the timeline, while a transition window opens up in December 2025, the real hammer drops on January 19, 2026. That is the hard enforcement pivot. On that exact date, the Intune MAM service is going to start actively checking the SDK versions of any app trying to connect. If those apps, or the management portals that support them, don't meet the absolute minimums, Intune will block the app from launching entirely until someone fixes it. Like I said, it is a hard cutoff. Moving right along to Section 2, the security logic, why Microsoft is forcing the change. Now, what's really interesting here is that Microsoft isn't just doing this to create busy work for IT teams. There's a solid security rationale. The core logic is all about reducing your attack surface. Older SDKs and wrappers literally just lack support for the newest security APIs and bug fixes. Plus, Apple and Google are constantly changing how their platforms behave. It's that classic platform churn we deal with all the time. By forcing everyone to use modern Intune SDKs, Microsoft is making sure that crucial app protection policies, things like your clipboard controls to stop folks from copy-pasting sensitive data, or screenshot blocks and data leak prevention hooks, actually work reliably. It's about operational consistency. When an app claims to be managed, it needs to provably meet that modern security baseline. And this brilliantly illustrates the broader industry shift. Look at this explicit toggle in Citrix endpoint management. They are moving right away from legacy MDX and over to the modern MAM SDK. So Microsoft isn't operating in a vacuum here. The entire industry is basically making this exact same pivot. Legacy wrapping technologies are hitting end of life because, frankly, they just can't keep up with modern mobile OS security demands. Integrating modern MAM SDKs is for sure the undisputed new standard for protecting corporate data on mobile endpoints. Which brings us to Section 3, iOS and Android requirements. Two platforms, two completely different paths. Depending on the devices making up your fleet, your technical reality is going to look vastly different. Let's contrast them for a second. The iOS reality, it puts a pretty heavy burden squarely on your dev teams. If you're running internal line of business apps, LOB apps, they don't magically update themselves through the App Store. Your developers literally have to rebuild and rewrap them individually. But switch over to the Android reality, and it's a totally different story. It's more of a centralized deployment bottleneck. Android enforcement basically hinges entirely on pushing out a single update to the Intune company portal app to unblock the device. So the crucial point for Apple devices is mapping your iOS development exactly to what Microsoft demands. The rules are strict here. If your internal app is compiled with Xcode 16, you absolutely must integrate Intune App SDK version 20.8.0 and use the wrapping tool version 20.8.1. Now, if you're on the newer Xcode 26, you've got to jump up to SDK version 21.1.0. Listen, if your developers miss this and fail to match these exact tool chains to the mandated SDK versions, Intune AM is just going to refuse the connection. The app will flat out break for the end user. Okay, now for the Android side. I want you to basically burn this specific number into your brain, version 5.0.6726.0. That is the required version for the Android Intune company portal. Having this exact portal version installed plus at least one compliant Microsoft app on the device that was built with the updated SDK is the magic combination. Once you hit that combo, it triggers a validation flow, and that allows all the other managed apps on that Android device to update their protection status and launch successfully. Let's look at Section 4, Real-World Operational Risks. What actually happens when you miss the window? So what does this mean on the ground for your day-to-day operations? Well, the biggest risk for Android is this cascading single-point failure. Because the MAM trust checks all flow directly through the company portal, one single stale portal app can paralyze the whole device. If a user just neglects to update that portal, they aren't just losing access to some random internal app. They're going to be completely blocked from opening Outlook, Teams, OneDrive, basically every managed work app at the exact same time. In a BYOD environment where you're relying on users to be compliant, that is a terrifyingly massive risk. On the flip side, the huge risk for iOS is the sheer maintenance burden for your internal LOB apps. I see it all the time. IT departments severely underestimate the time it takes to pull the source code, recompile it against a new SDK, run all your QA regression testing, sign the binaries, and then push them back through the MDM catalog. If your developers aren't tracking this Intune SDK release cadence right now, today, those internal apps are going to go completely dark in January. And it won't matter how perfectly healthy the physical iPhone is. Let's move to Section 5 and see how this builds into our next step. The IT action plan, your remediation playbook. All right, we know the deadline, we know the risks. Here is your actual playbook. The absolute smartest thing you can do right now is set up a graceful degradation strategy using Intune's conditional launch settings. Basically, don't wait for Microsoft to drop the hammer in January. Go into your policies today and configure your Min SDK version and Min Company Portal version to warn. Think of it as a safety valve. When a user with an outdated app tries to launch it, they get a pop-up warning them to update, but crucially, they can still get to their email. You just monitor those update rates over time, and once compliance gets high enough, you escalate your policy to block. It means no nasty surprises and no massive help desk spikes. So here is your rapid-fire prioritized tactical checklist. First up, inventory your environment immediately. Find every wrapped iOS app and check those Android company portal versions across your fleet using Intune graph queries. Second, if you're managing Android fleets, push version 5.0.6726.0 of the company portal centrally right now. Third, get those Xcode 16 and 26 iOS rebuilds on your developers' calendars today. Give them the heads up. And finally, prepare your help desk. Write the runbooks now. When users inevitably do get blocked, make sure your support team has temporary web fallbacks ready, like giving them Outlook web access, so they can actually keep working while their device is getting sorted out. Finally, Section 6, Future Mobile App Governance, moving from reactive to proactive. How do we stop putting out fires and move to a proactive posture? The secret is automation and governance. We've got to stop treating SDK updates like they're emergency, manual tasks. Sit down with your engineering teams and add automated Intune SDK version validation straight into your deployment pipelines, your CI/CD setup. Make it so that if a build uses an unsupported SDK, it just fails automatically. Plus, if you're relying on third-party mobile apps, you need to bake Intune SDK update commitments right into your vendor SLAs. Force a predictable app maintenance cycle. That is how you make sure you never have to scramble through a fire drill like this again. I want to leave you with a final thought to really chew on. Is your organization actively governing your mobile app lifecycles, or are you just holding your breath, waiting for the next enforcement deadline to dictate your IT priorities? Look, this January 2026 Intune MAM enforcement is actually a fantastic opportunity. It's a chance to clean up your security posture, standardize how you handle updates, and really lock down your data. Take the playbook we walked through today, start warning your users, get those rebuilds scheduled, and take back control of your mobile fleet. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, good luck out there.